Hey everyone, Kyle once again, aka Drowsy Godzilla fan, and welcome back to another review. And now we're on the sequel, Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. Home Alone 2: Lost in New York, great sequel. I love the sequel. Um, of course, because when I read the first one, which is a pure classic comedy Christmas film, Now this one is another great follow-up to the first film. Follows up really great. Um, Once again, directed by Chris Columbus, director of the first film and Harry Potter 1 and 2 and other comedy films. Once again, written and produced by John Hughes, and the rest of all the original cast comes back: Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, John Hurd, and Catherine O'Hara. And what can I say? This is, like I said, another great sequel to a classic film. So, like I say, if you haven't, if you everyone pretty much, so pretty much everybody has seen Home Alone. Pretty much, as I said before. As I said, pretty much anybody who's seen the first one has pretty much seen the first one and know what the plot is. And if the same people have seen the first film, you know what the plot is to the sequel. So what's so different about this one? Well, instead of being alone in his house, Kevin is obviously lost in New York, obviously. So let's see here. So it starts off in the same house. Kevin. The thing was like, it's almost been a year since the first film. Almost been a year. Kevin and his family are once again preparing another holiday trip, this time to Florida. And anyway, Kevin is seeing a commercial on TV, this fancy hotel that's in New York. He has his little tape recorder with him. He goes and spies on his Uncle Frank, who's in the shower singing. He records and he's like, and his Frank sees it, like, "Get out of here, you nosy little pervert! I'm gonna slap you silly." And then it goes because they like their Kevin, I guess the other family kids are singing at this Christmas singing choir, I think. And when Kevin is singing, everybody starts laughing at him. He sees his brother Buzz, doing something funny behind his back, And of course, his brother, Kevin, he hits him one, like, I wouldn't blame him because everyone's making fun of me behind my back. I want him too, But once he hits him, he calls everybody on the stage to fall over, and this fake Christmas tree hits the old woman who's playing the piano, fall backwards, and the brother's like, "Kevin!" The curtain closes on him. Then later, or the house, Buzz was speaking something, I forget what it was though, but then Kevin's mother was saying, "Kevin, do you have something else to say?" And he says he's not sorry for what's happened, and his Uncle Frank tries to your father's paid good money for this, I forgot, whatever. Yeah, and I like the line that Kevin says, "Oh yeah, I haven't seen you help anything, Mr. Cheapskate." Because that's what Uncle Frank is. He's a cheapskate, a jerk and a cheapskate. Because of the first film, that's what he was, And the same thing happens in the first film, they stay up late for their flight, and Kevin's mom and dad are like John Hurd and Catherine Hurd are like, "Hey, they're like, we did it again, So this time, Kevin does go to the airport with them, but he had to stop in the middle. He had to stop in the middle of running to the plane to put batteries in his new in his tape recorder, and he sees a guy who has the same brown coat that his dad has, and he thinks that his father, and the family goes one way, and Kevin follows the other guy to a plane the plane that goes to New York. He just waits, and he bumps into a person who's carrying all the the tickets. So that's how Kevin gets lost in New York. He mistakenly gets put on a plane to New York while his family goes to Florida. Once he sees he goes to Florida, he sits down with like my family. He's like, my family is in Florida and I'm in New York. And he's exploring the great city of New York while the family is at the airport, and they tell him to give Kevin his bag, or passing it on, until they see he's not there. They pass it back. Kevin's not here. And then the father, John Hurt's like, what? And Kevin's like, he starts laughing, and then he yells, Kevin, and then faints. And Kevin's out exploring all the different sites in New York, like he's taking pictures. Like one was like I think it was on the top of one of the Twin Towers, And while that, yep, the burglars, Harry and Marv, like, once again, Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci, they escape from jail, and they escape from jail, and they're in New York City too. Here we are, Marv, New York City. Do you smell that? Marv's like, fish. It's freedom. No, it's fish. It's freedom and it's money. It's okay. It's freedom. He's like, it's fish. So now he has this little new gig, instead of calling them, he has an idea. Instead of calling themselves the Wet Bandits, they call themselves the Sticky Bandits, because he sticks like tape the opposite way to take things, So it's like taking change from a Santa Claus, on the street, And then Kevin goes to that fancy hotel they saw on the TV, and another film that made another part why this film was also funny. Tim Curry is in this. Tim Curry is the manager of the hotel, Tim Curry, and also Rob Schneider is in this too. He's the bellhop. I mean, Tim Curry is just simply hilarious in this, and Rob Schneider too. He's funny because Kevin, because not only he has his father's credit card and a lot of money with him, to spend in Florida though. So he uses the credit card to purchase a room, and Tim Curry's just looking at him, thinking it's weird that a child on by himself checking into a hotel, Then Rob Schneider takes him to his room. There's a funny thing that because he always expects some dough, like tip though, and Kevin gives him some gum. He's like, and it's like at the end of the film, because his brother Buzz gives him some gums, like, and Rob Schneider's like, nice family, nice. So Kevin is enjoying his stay in the room, eating ice cream sundaes, and he's watching a different movie of that. In the first film, he was watching that black and white movie of that guy, with Tommy gun. He's watching a different movie of the same guy, a Christmas, because he has sitting by a Christmas tree, talking to his woman, takes his Tommy gun and shoots the woman. And he covers his face too, And then later in the night, another one of the funny parts in this film is when Tim Curry goes in to expect his guest in the room. He goes, housekeeping, and Kevin, he hears them, and he just goes in the bathroom, starts setting up this fake person, an inflatable Bozo the Clown in the shower. And he plays a tape recorder of his Uncle Frank singing and hearing the music in the tape. And he's using the strings to move the inflatable Bozo the Clown move the arms around. And Tim Curry, he's looking through in the bathroom, seeing the shadow of what he thinks is a person. He's like, and then Kevin turns the clown around and moves the arm, assimilating his Uncle Frank telling him to get out, says the same thing, get out, it's a little pervert, I'm gonna slap you silly, and Tim Curry's like, ooh, and he goes and bangs his knee against this small table. Tim Curry, Tim Curry, he's just so hilarious. I love Tim Curry as an actor. He's just so funny, you know. Especially other films, you know, especially another film that I really enjoyed him, and was a really underrated film, which was Congo, you know, Congo the Killer Ape film, you know, with the great gorillas. Yeah, that's another film that's an extremely underrated film that I enjoyed Tim Curry in. But so then and then the next day Tim Curry approaches Kevin again. Whereas you know he's saying Kevin's saying that he's with his father though, but what your father's like, oh, you just missed him, and tells him that he has a limousine for Kevin, you know, with pizza, you know. Tells it so Rob Schneider's waiting for Kevin outside with his pizza, you know. Then Kevin tells the driver to know any good toy stores and goes to this big toy store in the big city called Duncan's Toy Chest. This big old toy store, and while that there was also a scene where where Marv and Harry are on the ice rink, and Marv is just stealing people's clothing with the sticky hands, you know. And Harry's just telling he's gonna pull another heist, you know, where they were planning to rob, shows in the newspaper to rob the toy store. And he's like, "Yep, there's no one dumb enough to rob a toy store on Christmas Eve." And Marv's like, "Oh yes, there is." Points to him. And they'll see them hiding behind these houses. That's gonna be their hiding spot to wait out when the store closes, you know. Then Kevin McAllister talks to this old guy, you know, not knowing that's the real Duncan, you know, the owner of the toy store. He's using all this money to give as charity to give to the local children's hospital. When Kevin sees a big picture of the old guy, of the real Duncan, he turns, he's gone, you know. So when he steps outside, Marv and Harry and Marv, they recognize him by the name on his backpack. They attempted to get him. Kevin screams, "Ah!" And he gives gives him a foot chase. Like when Kevin buys this pearl necklace, pulls it through the strings, and all the pearls on the floor, making Harry and Marv trip over him. And then Tim Curry, he approaches Kevin, you know, knowing because earlier doing what he was researching that he used was a stolen credit card. So he approaches Kevin, you know, but it's like stolen credit card. Let's see what the police has to say. Get back here, you little thief! And tells Rob Schneider to grab him. Stop that child! Then it tells the woman who also who helped Kevin check into the hotel, you know. She goes and stands like this, and Kevin just slides right between her legs. You know, I know that sounded wrong though, but that's what he slid right between her and into the elevator, and the three of them bump into each other. I know that why I said that may sound wrong though, but that's what he did. And he goes to I committed credit card fraud. And then he goes to the hotel, grabs some stuff, you know, and tells him he's gonna go home. Then Tim Curry the woman, Rob Schneider, and a couple of the old folks, you know, security. They get into the room, and then he plays the movie on, and making the old Tim Curry making the old guy talking to Tim Curry think he's the person in the room. Oh, they're right there, you know. It's just funny how Tim Curry is like tries to talk, you know, like on the TV, like you know, all the weird questions are like I'm afraid you're mistaken, sir, you know. Don't give me that. You've been smooching with everybody, you know. And he's like, reads off one of the names, you know, of the guy named Cliff, and the old security guy, because that's his name is Cliff, and he's like, and they all kind of all look at him. No, it's a lie. And then it tells then the video says the old guy telling the woman the scene where it tells him the woman, you know, my Tommy gun don't get down on your knees and tell me you love me. And they'll get down on their knees, and this Tim Curry's like, I love you. That's how Tim Curry says it. It just makes it so hilarious. And it's like, tell them, you gotta do better than that, and they all say it at once, I love you. And then tells him he was gonna let him go, but give him to the count of 3, you know, and he fires the Tommy gun, and they all duck and cover, you know, running out the door, duck and cover. And Kevin's like a little smiling, and he's like, Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. and Tim Curry's calling for, like, telling the guests, because the guests are standing outside their doors listening, you know, and he's telling them, stay in your rooms, this is an emergency, there's an insane guest with a gun. But then Kevin tries to escape out from the back dock, and that's where Harry and Marv are waiting for him. As he's jumping, he sees him, but it's too late though. He jumps him down, and when Harry, he's raising his hand, he has the scarred mark of the M-shaped door handle. You know, the door handle with the M from McAllister, or from the first one when he burned his hand. It's all scarred up, and he sees it on his hand, you know. So he gets caught and tears up his plane ticket. Till they take him for a walk and tells him they're gonna pull the toy store heist. So then they stop at a crosswalk and he sees a woman, because this is earlier in the film. Marv had met with this woman, you know, like, you know, hi, you know, then she gives him like I think it was like the first time she gave him like a smack, you know. Yeah, she gave him a smack, and Marv's like, I think she likes me, and pulls the sticky hand off his face. He runs into the same woman again. When they're not looking, Kevin pitches the woman's rear end, and she's thinking that Marv did. You know, like, Marv's like, well, hello, and he gives him a punch, and then he did it. Did what? Punches Harry in the face too, and Kevin's like, thanks. So he goes and runs off into the park. He escapes and tells Harry's like, shit, Sean, when we got the chance, you know. I hate pulling the job, knowing that little creeps on the loose. But Harry tells him, Marv tells Harry that he's in the park and he's alone. Kids are scared of the park, and yeah, because he's like, yeah, grown men come to the park and don't leave them alive. Good luck, little fella. Yeah, because a bunch of old guys come out after, you know, stuff later at night in the park. Then so late in the night, you know, because he's walking through this, first he approaches this building, as they said that his brother's, it was supposed to be his father's brother's place, and they're currently renovating it, but nobody's home. So he's walking into the dark street. You see all these adults scaring him, you know. So he runs into the park and sees some pigeons, gives him some of his food, and sees this woman, the pigeon lady, it was called, you know, the pigeon lady. First he gets scared, runs away, but his foot gets caught, and she releases his foot, runs away. But he's like, oh, you're not so bad, you know. And the pigeon lady, who was played by Brenda Freaker. There's a Brenda Freaker. I really think she did a good job as the pigeon lady. She did a good job, to be honest on that. So as watching this as a kid, I've always liked her, you know. You know, she helping Kevin at the end, you know. She was a very likable character, the pigeon lady, played by Brenda Freaker. She was a likable character. So he goes away to this place where she listens to on the roof, where you see this big opera theater playing the music, playing the instruments, you know. Tells her her story, and then Kevin leaves. You know, says that you're good, you know. Then he's walking to the children's hospital. He sees a kid, you know, waving at him. He reminds himself of what Duncan had said, you know, about the money, you know, and what Marv was said. So he can mess with a lot of things. We can never mess with kids on Christmas. So he goes back to that old renovated place and sets up his booby traps. Then he heads back to the toy store. And then Kevin's parents. Well, throughout the film, when throughout the film, we found out he's missing, goes to the police, saying that his father's credit card was missing. They'll check on through the credit cards, and well, they're in Florida. They gets a call that he's in New York, so they go there and they go to the hotel. They talk with Tim Curry and the Rob Schneider and the other woman, and they're like, "What kind of hotel allows a child to check in alone?" And the woman's like, "The boy had a very convincing story. What kind of idiots you have working here?" And she goes, "The finest in New York." And they all smile, And it tells him that Tim Curry made that discovery the credit card stolen. They tell him they scared him away. Then Catherine O'Hara, Kevin's mom, tells me she's gonna go out. She's gonna go out and find him herself. Find him herself. And he goes out and slaps Tim Curry in the face. And he's like, "Do bundle up. It's awfully cold outside." He's like, I just love Tim Curry how he acts, So Kevin goes back to the toy store, and Harry and Marv, they get the money, and Kevin sees them, takes a picture, throws a rock with a message to Duncan, throws it through the window, sets off the alarm, and Harry he jumps out the window, lands in this plank like a seesaw and he tries to stop Marv, but he steps on the other end, and Harry goes flying up in the air and lands on a car. Yes, I know all the stuff stuff is unrealistic, but that's what makes it so funny, So they chase it to the building and fall to the old building and tells him, he'll make a deal to throw it down his camera, but there's gonna be double cross, so he knows that, and Kevin knows that, but he throws bricks down and throws 4 bricks and it hits Marv in the head. Yes, I know that would have killed him. I know, but like I said, I know it's unrealistic, but that's what makes it so funny, He's all dazed and confused. He's like, Harry. And he goes up to the front door, pulls the doorknob. It's a string case of pulling, and it's attached to a staple gun. It shoots the staple gun through the keyhole, hits him, staples his rear hand, and he turns around and staples right through his groin. He's like, "Oh!" And then one right through his nose. And Harry tries to go up to jump onto this ladder, but Kevin greased it. He falls back. And then Marv, he breaks the door open, and he's like, "Harry, I reached the top." And once again, he doesn't look down. He falls through that big old hole in the floor, and falls right flat of the basement floor, cracking his neck, And he once again, he gets back up. He's like, cracks his back, like, "Wow, what a hole." But once again, now looking down, he doesn't see the green stuff that Kevin sprayed on the floor. He slips and he falls, slides towards us, causing this big rack of paint cans falling on him. He's all covered in paint. Harry, he goes upstairs to under the door, kicks the door open, and while it opens the door, it unzips his bag full of heavy tools, hits him in the head. And he starts opening a string of lights, thinking it might do something, but it didn't, until he gets to the bathroom, yanks on it, and sets his head on fire. He's like, like he did, and he tries to put his fire. He said nothing to put out, so he sticks his head in the toilet, which is full of flammable liquid. And you have a shot outside where the whole place goes. He said, "Let's just have it." It's like his face is all black and his head is messed up. I was like, "Ooh." Harry, and then Marv, he starts to wash off the paint, but he gets electrocuted, and he's like, "Oh!" And he's like, his hair suddenly he sees he's like a skeleton for a second, and just still making that grilling noise. "Ah! Ah!" He tries to pull on a rope, and a bag. He pulls a rope, and it's sturdy enough, but he pulls it down, and a bag hits him, gets hit in the head with a bag of cement. He tries to make this a makeshift thing to go up this hole in the floor. Um, he calls. He sees the kid like, don't you know a kid always wins against two idiots? And Harry tries to climb the ladder, but Kevin stole up one part, and it all collapses down. They try to go up the stairs. Harry remembers the paint can, so they dodge. They avoid the two paint cans, but as they try to go upstairs, Kevin lifts this big black metal thing, and it hits them all both. Fall back down to the hole, and he cuts it. Bam, 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 bam. And I was like, that's 4. So they get back out of the hole, and they go back to another door. It pulls the doorknob into string, and it's attached to a tool chest. Falling down the stairs, breaks through the door and smashes the both in, and Mario's like, that was the sound of a tool chest falling down the stairs. And they'll reattach their noses. So Kevin climbs down a rope from the roof, which is soaked in kerosene, while Harry and Marv, they try to climb down, and he's like, why would anyone soak a rope in kerosene? And Kevin lights the rope. Merry Christmas. Go up. And they all let go of the rope, and they fall down. Hits the plank, and it sends a bunch of more paint cans falling on them. Kevin calls the cops, and then he runs across the street, and he slips on some ice, and he slips on the ice, and he gets a little woozy, and Marv's like, my, how the tables have turned. Harry's like, how do you like the ice, kid? So they take him to the park, and Harry pulls out a gun, that's all covered in gooey paint. Marv, he notices all the pigeons, and he says, we gotta get out of here. But then the pigeon lady tells Kevin to run, to let him go. She throws a big bucket of birdseed on all the pigeons, are all surrounding them, covering them up, And Mary's like, he's like, and then Marvy's like, his high-pitched scream like he did with the tarantula, and I was like, ah! So then Kevin sets off some fireworks to signal the cops to find them, and they're all covered in feathers, and stupid Marv is like, he's like, telling their whole plan, May's hiding on the Twister so he can steal the kids' charity money. He's a little cranky. We just broke out of prison a few days ago, and Harry keeps hitting him. Shut up, Marv. So as they're being taken away, and Marv's still blabbing his mouth, like, remember, if this makes the papers, we're no longer the wet bandits, we're the sticky bandits. So meanwhile, Kevin's out. Kevin's mom is still searching for his son. He goes to a cop car. Mentioned that there's he says something about a big tree, and remembers that he likes his tree. So she goes to I don't know, this place has a big ginormous tree where Kevin is visiting, and she finds him. They both hug, and as they return to the hotel, and it's Christmas morning. They go upstairs. There's a whole bunch of presents, and Buzz makes an announcement to thank Kevin, But then, as Kevin's opening up a present, he remembers the turtle doves, because early in the film, while he was a toy store, Mr. Duncan, he gave him 2 turtle doves, and after that, after the burglars got arrested, Mr. Duncan is at the toy store, reads the note that Kevin threw the rock through the window, left a note, right? Kevin, tells him he apologizes for breaking the window, and says he's sorry, and says he'll lend him some money, and it says, P.S. Thank you for the turtle doves. And he smiles, saying turtle doves, So, but he remembers the turtle doves that Mr. Duncan gave him, so he goes outside to find the pigeon lady. Tells him Merry Christmas, gives her one of the turtle doves, tells him we'll always be remembered as friends. And the pigeon lady, she's touched by what Kevin did, gives him a hug, And then Rob Schneider, the bellhop, gives Buzz this Mr. McAllister's room service bill, and once again expects a tip, and Buzz gives him some gun that he was already shooting up, and Robert Schneider's like, nice family, really. And then Buzz is reading all the big room service bill, and it's like close to $1,000, and calls his dad, and Kevin hears all the way from outside with a pigeon link, hears his dad yelling from the top of his lungs, Kevin, you spent $967 on room service, and Kevin runs away. Once again, yeah. Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. Like I said, I love this sequel. This is really great. It's a great sequel to the first film. It was released on November 20th, 1992. Then it was met with more negative reviews than the first film, sadly though. But let me check for a second. This one, I didn't mention this. This one has more of a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. It has 24% on Rotten Tomatoes, sadly though. But compared to the first film, was given a mixed review. It was 54% on Rotten Tomatoes. All those films, but both these films should have been much more higher on Rotten Tomatoes, because these two films are really great classics. But at least on IMDb, the first film was given a 7.3. I think that's great, and the second film was a little more or less a 6.3 on IMDb, which I think is pretty decent though, but it could have been just a little bit more higher. But the second film was very successful too. It was very successful too, It was much less than the first film though, but it was still. The first film made like 476 million worldwide. The Home Alone 2 made over 358 million worldwide, so it was still a big hit on a budget of 20 million. And it was the third highest grossing film of 1992, so that is pretty good. So both these films are very successful, and like I said, everybody does once again, the original cast does a great job. Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, and Daniel Stern, they're still once again great, Even John Hurd and Catherine O'Hara, they still do fine jobs as the parents. And Tim Curry, once again, he's freaking funny in this film, I love Tim Curry. He was really funny in this film. I love Tim Curry in this film. And Brenda Fricker as the pigeon lady, she does a good job as well in this as well. Music once again by John Williams. John Hughes once again do a good job on the writing and producing. And then of course I'm not gonna review number 3 because I don't have it on DVD. But I'll just explain this briefly though. But number 3 is I didn't care much. All I wanted to do is throughout the entire film I didn't care about the plot. I think it was a ridiculous plot though for number 3 though. But I watched it just for the end with the traps at number 3. That's all I cared about watching. Even though it's funny that Roger Ebert gave Home Alone 3, said it was better than the first two films. I definitely disagree on that. Home Alone 3 is definitely not better than these two films. Sorry, Roger Ebert, though. Even though maybe rest in peace, though. But I disagree with that one. Home Alone 3 is not better than the first two films. These two are the greatest in the franchise. As pretty much everybody will agree with. Even though number 3, it was the debut feature film for director Raja Gosnell, who directed Scooby-Doo 1 and 2 and The Smurfs 1 and 2 and Never Been Kissed. That was the first film he directed, and he was also the film editor for the first two Home Alone films. So that was his first film he directed, was Home Alone 3. Then he later go and direct Smurfs 1 and 2, Scooby-Doo 1 and 2, and Never Been Kissed. But Home Alone 3, I have no interest anymore. If I do, I just watch it just for the traps part. I don't care about the whole dumb plot with this missile chip, and the remote control car, Never cared for that plot, I just watch it for the sake of the traps. And Home Alone 4, Take It Back to the House, can kiss my ass. I would never want to talk about that film. Never. I'm just saying here and now. No, I'm never going to talk about Home Alone 4 because, does anyone agree, that film is the worst of the franchise. Piece of shit film. Plain and simple. I'm never going to talk about that film, never. And there was even a new one in 2020 that came out. It's called Home Alone 4 something. I forget what it was called. hold on. It's called the Holiday Heist. That starred Malcolm McDowell as one of the burglars. Well, he must have been really desperate. Must be real desperate. Even starting another sequel to Home Alone 4. Never saw it, and I never will. So Home Alone 1 and 2, classics. Great, pure classic holiday comedy Christmas film, and so is this one. Great sequel to it. Number 3, had no interest anymore. Number 4, can kiss my ass. Never talking about the film. And Home Alone 5, the Holiday Heist. I've never seen it, and I never will. So that's all. I'm only reviewing these two. I'm never reviewing the other 3 sequels. Never. So that's my review you check back my review on this one, I already did. But this is my review for Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Great sequel. So anyway, thanks for watching, and take care. Later.